TruthSeekah and or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah podcast.
Gargoyles, psychics, everything's ungodly. Dark Savage.
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian.
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in Dark Savage stuff.
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, TruthSeekah. We're back with another podcast. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me this evening. We got an awesome show planned for you. It's been a while since I was able to talk to my guests who we're having on tonight, and I'm so excited to finally catch up. It's been a while. So before we get started, I just want to thank all the Patreons, everybody who is supporting my work and what I do over at patreon.com/TruthSeekah. And you can go there and you can support at any level. Anybody who wants to support what we're doing, you get access to hidden podcasts, new music, unreleased music, and you get access to my entire discography. So head on over to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. And there's different levels of giving. Anybody who wants to give there. So grateful and thankful for everybody who's been doing that. You guys are so awesome. So without further ado, tonight's guest, my good friend, Santos Bonacci. What's up, brother? Hold on 1 second. You're muted. Let me see if I can unmute you. Go ahead. Okay, your audio's still muted on your side, Santos. Do it again. There we go. Good.
Okay.
What's going on, brother? How are you?
Very well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to the show. I think the first one that we did was, like I said, 2013. It's been a few years now, and a lot has happened since then. With you, with research and everything. And we were supposed to do another show. I know it's been over a year ago now, but the last show that we had scheduled was the same day that you went to jail. And we had a show scheduled for that day. So this is the makeup show. Talk a little bit about that, man. So like a lot of people don't know that you went to jail and everything that was going on with that and the media coverage that was surrounding that whole incident. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, the system went out of their way to make an example of me and to rubbish my work, my activities, my reputation, and everything. They just try to destroy. They try to destroy you, as they do. And I was lucky I didn't get killed, because these people would love to have me dead. They would very much love to have me dead. So I was in fear all the time, constantly, knowing that some very, very evil and sinister individuals were behind that. And this is what they do. It's the Inquisition. The Inquisition has never gone away. It's changed names many times. These days, I think they changed the name in 1965. Last time they changed it, and it's called, well, let me have a look. Just go to Wikipedia and put Inquisition in. And we'll see that the Inquisition is still alive today, and the officers of the Inquisition are the police, the bailiffs, the sheriffs, the judges, the clerks. They are all doing the work of the Inquisition. There you go. In the third paragraph in Wikipedia, it tells you that the name of the Inquisition in 1965 became the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. There you go, but it's still alive and well. And putting good people in jail. As Jesus said, the day will come when they will put you in prison in my name.
For speaking the truth. I just had Jordan Maxwell on the other day, and I was just kind of relating his scenario, his situation, where he's at now, and just relating it back to Jesus, getting the truth out there, and them, like you said, making an example out of you, almost to scare everyone else. You know, I think whenever they led Jesus to the cross and we seen who was there with them at the end, like all of his followers, everyone was scared to death, and nobody, they said that they weren't affiliated with him or anything when it was time for the persecution to come and stuff like that. And I want to talk a little bit as well, because I want to go into Flat Earth tonight. It's kind of been the same thing with Flat Earth. When you bring it up, people already have a belief on it, or they, you know, they already feel some type of way about it without looking at any of the research. And if you say that you believe in Flat Earth, you know, you're going to get socially ridiculed. People are going to make fun of you. And I know you've seen it because you do the work, but I've had so many people say that they quit listening to Santos when he started talking about Flat Earth. So I want to ask you, I'm not studied on it. I stayed away from it because I've seen what everybody in the Truther movement did and how they point fingers and they pull support and everything. So I want to ask you, why Flat Earth? Why is it like this big deal, and what's behind it?
Well, the greatest deception ever to plague mankind is the globe and the globalist families behind the globe. This is what people fail to see because they're not researchers and they're not truthers. They're happy to go with the crowd, as the scripture.
That's true.
The crowd says it's a globe. So, and the Inquisition for 500 years has supported the globe and taught the globe and persecuted flat earthers as witches and wizards and heretics, etc. But they were right. Our ancestors were right. Our ancestors were intelligent. They all believed that we lived on a stationary, flat, horizontal plane. And that means all of our ancestors. So since when did we become so smart 500 years ago with the Copernican revolution that we just totally turned our backs on all of our ancestral traditions, which held records and accounts and tabulated their wisdom and catalogued all of their knowledge, that Rome came along and the Jesuits burned, rewrote history and created a new world order called globalism based on the Santa Globe, something that never existed and never will exist. But there you go. They've educated people to think that they're upside down spinning whilst they're doing their ejaculation, all the other swine-eating things that they do. What they've done is they've turned humanity into prodigal sons. The prodigal son went to sleep with prostitutes and to get intoxicated. And so essentially that's what they're doing. They're distracting people with all of these distractions and pseudoscience, and people are falling for it. So the scripture warns that even the chosen ones, they will try to deceive. So the warning is loud and clear. We need to be very, very careful in these days. Our warfare is a war against the principalities of the air, of the kingdom of the air. It's a spiritual warfare. And the Jesuits are masters of deceiving humanity. It's their globalism is, and the globe is their agenda. I've exposed the families behind the globe. It's the Farnese family, the Orsini family, the Borgia family, Aldobrandini, Pamphili, Colonna. Yeah, Colonna became Columbus. So if you're looking for the Colonna plantation in the Americas, District of British Columbia, the District of Columbia, British Columbia, the country in South America called Colombia, all of these plantations belong to the Colonna family. And so, and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and all of these other names, Breakspear, all of these power families, they all come from these 4 or 5 families: Borgia, Borghese, Orsini, Farnese. They've always held the power in Rome. They've always controlled commerce. They've always controlled the judiciary system through Justinian law, which is dog Latin. They've controlled everything. And they funded Copernicus the Jesuit, and they funded Newton the Jesuit, Galileo Galilei the Jesuit, and all of their telescopes, etc. They are all owned by the Jesuits. Since the day of Matteo Ricci, who went to China to try and seduce them into globalism, which I call globe-tartary, they finally succeeded with the Opium Wars, and China fell to the globe conspiracy. It's the biggest psyop in history. It has caused more persecution and bloodshedding than any other truth. There has never been a truth. Hang on a minute. It's so cold here. Excuse me. There's never been a truth more persecuted than the stationary horizontal Earth truth. The reason being is when you make a globe, you make a contained domicile for humanity. You contain them. You put limits on how far they can go. You can't go out to space because you haven't got the money. You can't go past Antarctica because 47 nations have signed a dubious treaty to protect Antarctica from you going there and peeing on the snow. That would cause the world to stop turning. You can't go there and pee and defecate on that beautiful white snow. So we're going to have a treaty under the Vatican, of course, under the auspices of the Vatican and the pedophile Pope, protecting these families who control all of our commerce. We're going to protect Antarctica because we really do a great job of protecting the rest of the planet. You can see how well it's doing. So you let us keep that treaty going. Don't you explorers go beyond, as did Sir Captain George Hubert Wilkins in the 30s. He went 5,000 miles beyond Antarctica and discovered many lands, as he documented in his logbook. So we can see that clearly there is an agenda behind the globe. Global economy, global governance, global religion, which is the Inquisition under the Catholic Church and the Holy See, global warming, and all of these crocs that have been invented by pedophiles, as the globe psyop is, for stupid upside-down spinning idiots, which they call useless idiots and useless eaters. Hence, they are spraying chemtrails over them to kill them because they are useless eaters. If they can believe they're upside-down spinning on a dunce globe, methinks they are more than useless eaters.
Yeah. How far past, I guess, the North Pole are we talking? Are we talking like something huge and other lands and other people existing over there, or what do we have for today? Is this just something that the ancients believed in? Because that's definitely documented in all the art, in a lot of the major holy books talking about this flat Earth. People ask me all the time my opinion on it. I don't really have a strong opinion. I haven't given myself over to study it to make an educated opinion, but I say that if it's not true, then our ancestors were wrong because they all believed in flat Earth. So how far past Antarctica are we talking? Are we talking about something like huge, like what we already know today, and it just keeps going, or is there a limit, or what? I mean, what's the picture look like?
Well, we don't really know. Explorers have come back and recounted their missions both to the North Pole and to the South Pole, which we call the Arctic and Antarctica. Both of these regions are populated by peoples and nations and peaceful and more awakened and advanced societies. And so the elite families are aware of this. They're well aware of this. They communicate with some of these extraterrestrials and limit what information we can be privy to, and control the information channels, the media. And so many people are waking up to this. Many people have read the accounts of voyages that have, and expeditions that have been conducted in the North Pole over the hundreds of years, especially Swedish, Norwegian, Russian accounts. Many books have been written by many explorers who have been to lands beyond Greenland, beyond the Arctic Circle, up to the 80th parallel, where there is abundance of life. Whereas in Antarctica, there is no life beyond the 55th parallel. So you see, the South Pole is truly very, very different to the North Pole. They're totally two different creatures. And science knows this. But beyond Antarctica, which is a massive ice wall, there are other lands, as Sir Captain George Hubert Wilkins discovered. And he was a colleague and friend, contemporary of what's the American explorer who went to both North Pole and South Pole? Admiral Byrd. There you go. Admiral Byrd was a friend of Sir Captain George Hubert Wilkins. But Wilkins did go beyond the work of Admiral Byrd. But both of these men were silenced. They were not able to share exactly what they discovered there. The globalists, they just can't afford this. They need their globe psyop to persist. And so these guys would have had, restrictions on what they could say. And so we don't know exactly what is there, although all we know is that it's very, very well guarded, and for a good reason, because they love their prison planet, works well for them. They've got everybody signed up. Everybody's believing in their global warming hoax and their, climate control, and how they're protecting us with chemtrails so that nature won't destroy us and obliterate us. Nature has no way of correcting all of her cycles and rhythms and ages, so that we can allow the Creator and nature to correct everything under her control. No, we have to interfere with it, and all for the, in the name of protecting us and the globe and the furtherance of the global agendas. No borders. Oh, we don't want borders. We don't need people being having developed societies and protecting their national interests. We don't want that. We want to tear down national borders, a la George Soros and the globalists, so that there is no more national identities, and everything's just a homogenized global religion where the Pope can protect you forever because there are terrorists out there. You see, terrorism, the war on terrorism is just the Inquisition. It's once it was called the Crusades, then it became the Inquisition, then it became, you know, the doctrine for the holy faith, then it became blah, 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 you know. Now it's the war on terrorism. It's the Inquisition.
A lot of Christian scholars, a lot of biblical theologians are now coming out back in flat earth, saying that the prophets and you know, the people of the Bible believed in it, and there's tons of scriptures that refer to it and point back to it. What are some of the key ones that are mentioned of in the Holy Bible that stand out to you?
Oh, there's millions. Isaiah, let me see if I can remember Isaiah. It says, your work at the firmament, your handiwork of the heavens is glorifying the Creator, the firmament. And so it's repeatedly talking about a firmament. Interesting about that, as they know that there is a dome-like structure that the stars are embedded in, which are above our heads. You know, it's a fact of reality, and the ancients knew this, and they protected this beautiful wisdom. Genesis 1:14, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide day from the night. Genesis 1:6, let there be a vault between the waters to separate the waters above from the waters below. Amos 9:6, the one who builds his upper chambers in the heavens and has founded his vaulted dome over the earth. He who calls for the waters of the sea and pours them out on the face of the earth. Psalm 24:2, for he founded it on the seas and established it on the waters. Proverbs 8:29, when he gave the sea its boundary so the waters would not overstep his command, and he marked out the foundation of the earth. These are just some. I mean, I'm just flicking through a presentation. I can read tens of them from the Quran. Yeah. I can read the Bhagavad Gita. Let's see. I want to grab some really good ones. Here's Rudya of Omar Khayyam. He is Islamic. He says, and that inverted bowl we call the sky, whereunder crawling copped we live and die. Lift not thy hands to it for help, for it rolls impotently on as thou or I. The Sumerians, the boundary between the primeval sea and the earth, a flat disk, was a solid vault, within which was the gas-like atmosphere. The stars, planets, sun, and moon were embedded in this solid vault. Anaximenes, the great Greek philosopher, described the heaven as a felt cap that turned on its head and the stars fixed to the surface like nails. Here's Job 37:18. Hast thou with him spread out the sky, which is strong and as a molten looking glass? Yeah, the Hebrew cosmology. Isaiah 40:22, he sits enthroned above the circle of the earth, not the sphere. A circle is not a sphere. Like a circle coin is circular. It's round.
Like a disc.
Exactly. So, the earth is round, but it's not round spherically, circularly. So continuing in verse 22, and its people are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the heavens like a canopy and spreads them out like a tent to live in. I mean, I could go on. Psalm 19:4, this is the scripture that Werner von Braun has on his tombstone. The heavens declare the glory of God. There is no speech, nor are there words. Their voice is not heard. Their line has gone out through all the earth, and their utterances to the end of the world. In them he has placed a tent for the sun, a tabernacle, which is the bridegroom coming out of his chamber. It rejoices as a strong man to run its course. So, the heavens declare the glory of God. What is that? The firmament. 1 Chronicles 16:30, he has fixed the earth firm, unmovable. Unmovable. Psalm 104:5, he established the earth upon its foundations. So there's some foundations under the earth. So it will not be made to totter forever and ever. What does that mean? Well, the earth will not be made to totter. It doesn't move. This is why there are seismic instruments that can detect the movement of 1/10 of a millimeter of the earth. How can that be? If it's supposedly orbiting around the sun at Mach 88. Mach 88, the sun is orbiting, the earth is a sod of dirt wrapped in water, rotating at Mach 1.35, 1,035 mile an hour, and racing, orbiting around the sun at 66,600 miles an hour, 666, which is Mach 88, Mach 89. Have you seen any pilots under the G-forces of Mach 1 or 1.5? Have you seen their faces contort and their eyes pull back, like wrapped almost to the back of their heads under the G-forces of Mach 2? We're talking Mach 88, this sod of dirt wrapped in soft water and very beautiful carbon-based atmosphere, and butterflies flying around in the atmosphere, and it is compressing against the molecules of space at Mach 88. And yet, for half the day, we don't feel that compression on our heads during the day between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. And then at night, because we are in the wake of that sod of earth traveling at Mach 88, why don't we then feel some rarefaction or a vacuum or being sucked into the earth?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Or the atmosphere, I should say. We're talking Mach 88, and that's just one of 4 movements that the earth supposedly is making, and yet seismic instruments can detect 1/10 of a millimeter of movement of the earth, and the alarms go ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Now, how much is 1/10 of a millimeter? That's about the breadth of a bee's willy. Yeah. And yet, supposedly, we are orbiting at a thrusting, pulsating, hurtling rate of Mach 88. Wow. It's fascinating how people buy that BS.
Another one I think they throw out there, so they say, okay, if the earth is flat, if we're living on a flat earth, what's with the planets, the spherical planets that we see in the night skies? And NASA and all of this stuff. What's going on with those things? Are they spheres, or do they exist? I mean, what are we looking at?
Well, they appear as spheres because of our spherical eyes and how everything is decoded by our eyes. But the ancients knew what they were. They didn't say they were spheres, although Pythagoras described them as the music of the spheres, the harmony of the spheres. But he was not at all suggesting that they were spherical. The spheres are as in spheres of influence, because he knew the true cosmology.
Okay.
He knew
that makes sense.
He knew it was geocentric. He knew they were discs, as the Egyptians described the moon, the lunar disc.
The sun disc, yeah.
The sun disc.
Yep.
Even in the Bible. Let's have a look at, all right, well, let's have a look at Malachi, shall we? Malachi chapter 4, the last chapter in the Old Testament. So what do we got here? Malachi chapter 4. this will be easy for anyone to look at and to check. Malachi 4:2. But for you who fear my name, the Sun of Righteousness shall rise with healing in its wings. The Sun of Righteousness, the S-U-N.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, okay, with healing in its wings. How do the Egyptians depict the sun?
That's exactly what that is.
Yeah. How do the Jehovah's Witnesses depict the sun on the facade of their assembly hall in New Jersey? You can look it up on Google. A sun disk with wings on it. Why are the Jehovah's Witnesses telling you in your face that the sun is a disk with wings? Because the Jesuits tell you that too, because the Egyptians tell you that too, because it is.
Yeah. Same symbol.
And the Babylonians, a disk, a winged disk. And what are the wings? Well, the wings, if you look at the sun is just a condensed rainbow. It's golden light or white light, because all of those 7 refracted colors of the rainbow are condensed in the sun, and the sun is the one that emanates that electromagnetic spectrum of colors, violet and red, infrared, ultraviolet, and everything in between. And so therefore the sun is the winged, the Aboriginals here call it the rainbow serpent. In America they call it Quetzalcoatl, Viracocha. It's the winged disc. Hey, just a tick. I can hear someone coming up the driveway.
Okay. All right, I'll take it for a second. Go ahead. Yeah. So, yeah, you're good. So I got some people in the chat room wanting to call in. Yeah, the phone lines are open. We will be taking your calls if anybody has a call for a question for Santos or myself. You guys can do that. The phone lines are open. The number is scrolling across the top of the screen, and it's in the description, but it's just so you guys, so it's 724-444-7444, and the call ID number is 78643. Push pound. It will ask you for your PIN number. You just push 1, and it'll show that we have calls in queue. And so I see some of them coming through now. So we'll take your calls here in a few minutes. If you guys have any questions for Santos, I know a lot of people look up to him and his work. That's why I had him on. Huge influence on me and what I'm doing early on. And it was just such a blessing to talk to him years ago to get some truth and have him on the show. And it's been one of the biggest rating shows I did back when I was doing the Awakening podcast. So anybody has any calls or questions for Santos, y'all make sure you go ahead and get them in. We'll try to get to everybody. So yeah, we got a lot of people talking in the chat room, just to let everybody know. Chat room is open over there on YouTube. If you're listening to this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe via iTunes. And so that's where we upload all the iTunes, and you can download the MP3 formats as well. So Sandman in the chat room says, how can you be a truth seeker and swerve flat earth? If you heard the very beginning, I stayed away from it because, first of all, it marginalizes any type of sphere of influence that you have, almost like all of these, you know what I'm saying, religion and politics. When you discuss this stuff, when you start saying that you believe in flat earth or that you push this, I've seen it happen with Santos. That's why I talked to him at the beginning about it. I've seen his fan base almost essentially cut in half. A lot of times when his name is mentioned now, people laugh. And so because of flat earth and all that. So that's why I wanted to have him on and kind of go into some more detail. So that's why I've stayed away from flat earth and stuff. And that goes with that. And people are like wanting to know, when people are wanting to know your stance on flat earth so they can make an opinion on what to think of you. Oh, you're one of those guys? Okay, I'm done with you. The same thing has been done to me about through my fan base about homosexuality. They want to know, how do I feel about the transgender community, things like that. And if I don't give them the right answer, they're gone, right? So I was like, you know what? if that's the case, I'm not even going to address it. So that's what, the kind of the stance that I took on that. So, Santos, you back, brother?
Yeah, okay. I am. Now, you mentioned something very, very interesting. I appreciate that radio DJs and interviewers need to be open-minded, and sure, they are protecting themselves because they have a listener base.
Yeah.
And they want to be open-minded to all things. So I appreciate that position. My position is different. I'm a truther.
Exactly.
And I'm a truther, a researcher and a truther. And my duty is to present the truth. Now, I was heliocentric up until 3 years ago, and my work was done based on an incorrect model. The work still stands because it's based on the ecliptic. It's not based on any shape of the Earth. I never did that. So the work still stands, but now it has been corrected, and it is based on the true model, which is the model that was in Europe for thousands of years before Copernicus, and that is the Ptolemaic astrological model. So I, being an astrologer, cosmologist, mythologist, etymologist, syncretist, etc., I'm going with the ancients. So I'm going to stick with the Bible, which concurs with astrology, and I'm going to agree with Ptolemy, who was correct for thousands of years before Copernicus. Thousands of years. So, yes, as you mentioned, many people who were following syncretism and decided to jump off the syncretism boat because they're so intelligent, being upside down spinning, that they don't want to get vertical and with the true cosmology. All those people, they were insignificant in the first place. Those ones that are laughing, I will get the last laugh.
Yeah,
I will be laughing forever. And my ancestors are laughing and happy that I have turned to the true cosmology, and they are disgusted and rolling around in their graves at these idiot zombies, warmed up death, that are kicking around thinking that they know something. They know nothing. They are stupid idiots, useless idiots that the governments have turned into morons, and they think they're upside down spinning. What a crock of BS. That is the biggest crock. Everyone is vertical. Your senses tell you are vertical always. Always. I mean, even gyroscopes in aeroplanes and the artificial horizon in aeroplanes, they are set to a vertical horizon.
They don't never shift.
Never shifts.
Yeah.
It never shifts. There are many proofs, abundant proofs. In fact, all of the experiments that have ever been conducted since the Astronomer Royal, James Bradley, in 1729, have detected no movement of the Earth. None whatsoever. We've got 150 years after James Bradley, the Astronomer Royal, George Airy, he conducted his telescope experiment and he failed to detect movement in the Earth. Hence they call it the Airy's failure. And then Michelson-Morley, Michelson-Gale, Sagnac, Marconi. Marconi proved that the Earth is stationary. His colleague, Pierluigi Igina, you can see him on YouTube. He was a colleague of Marconi for 10 years. They proved with two antennas that the Earth is stationary. One is an antenna that reaches up to the sun and collects the solar rotating energy field, and the other goes down into the Earth to register the Earth's energy going backwards. So they realized that there were two energies, the solar energy and the Earth energy. Well, they put a strobe light. They put a strobe light on the circuits, two circuits, one circuit for the sun and one circuit for the Earth, and you could see that there was a delay in one of in the sun's energy field, electromagnetic energy field, which proves that one of those fields is moving. And so you see videos of Pierluigi Aguina before he died in 2004 explaining that he and Marconi proved quite simply that the Earth is stationary and does not move. And so with their strobe light laboratory machines and instruments, they were able to prove that the rotation is from the sun only. And another thing that Pierluigi Aguina did was he was able to show the sun at night to the mayor of his town. He had all the important people of his town come to his laboratory, and he showed them all. And he was very proud of this, that he was able to show them the sun by night. Now, how can you see the sun by night if it's on the other side of a globe? See, the sun never, ever, ever is under the globe. It is always above the flat, horizontal, stationary Earth, rotating. And this is the point. The point is that we have science on our side. Only experiments have proven that the Earth is stationary. Scientific experiments. These scientists, Pierluigi Aguina, he's not a nobody. Marconi, these are not nobodies. These are men who have proven conclusively, and yet we have Einstein with his one quote. I have come to believe that no experiment, scientific experiment, can prove the movement or has detected the movement of the Earth. Yes, because Einstein the Jesuit is a liar. And all of these CGI images, they all come from the Jesuit-owned astronomical field. And so they control the information, they control the globe, they are the globalists because they protect the Farnese family and the Orsini family. Farnese, Pepe Orsini is the grey pope, okay? People need to understand this. The Orsini family have wielded the reins of power in Rome for thousands of years, okay? And so Pepe Orsini, the grey pope, he pulls the strings of Pope Francis, the white pope, and Calvinbach, the superior general of the Jesuits, the black pope, and Nicholas Adolphus, and the new one now. There are three of them, apparently. And then Farnese, King Juan Carlos of Spain, is a Farnese. He's also the King of Jerusalem. Yeah, the Crusades, remember? Mm-hmm. The King of Jerusalem. That was a title that the papal bloodline crusading families created. They created the title of the King of Jerusalem. So he's the King of Spain, which controls all of the Americas. King of Jerusalem. He's the military navigator of the Knights of Malta. That means he's one of the most powerful men in the world. And he's also the Roman monarch of the world. This is a Farnese. These are families that goes back to Persia and the Persian Empire, which destroyed Europe ultimately. Mm-hmm. Even though the Greeks destroyed the Persian Empire, the Persian Empire had the back door. They created the Etruscan Empire and the Roman Empire. So that was the back door that destroyed Greece, and Greece was protecting Europe from the onslaught coming from the east. And so the Persians established the Mithraic Zoroastrian religion in Rome. Rome was Mithraic before Constantine made it officially Christian. So Mithras was their god, and the Persians and these families, they set themselves up in Europe so that then they could conquer the Americas and then create a globe.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of research for someone just to watch a short, thing or a meme across Facebook and then make their judgments and assumptions off of a meme when you've obviously done not hours but days and months and years of research on this topic for you to actually come out and endorse it. I want to go to the phone lines. We got some people waiting. Some people in the chat room want to ask some questions. So we got a caller here from South Alabama. I hope this is a friend of mine. I got a friend of mine who's just getting into flat Earth, and he's immersing himself into it. And hopefully this is him. But we have a call from South Alabama. Who's speaking with?
This is Kenny.
Kenny.
It's exactly who you think it is.
What's going on, man? How are you? Welcome to the show, brother.
Good, man. Good.
You got a question or
doing
comment?
A show about this.
Say it again.
Said I'm glad you're finally doing a show about this.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, dude, we got probably one of the leading experts in the field on right now about the subject. You got any questions you want to go into with Santos?
I do have one question, one thing I just can't wrap my mind around, but I wanted to say something first about Einstein. I don't know why, but when I was listening to him talk about him, I don't think he was as evil as he made him sound. I mean, he fell in love with science for sure, but he himself didn't even believe his theories and didn't think any of them were proved. So, he was just a brilliant man that was chasing a rabbit down the wrong hole. And, that's as far as that goes. And Nikola Tesla, Einstein knew that he wasn't as smart as Nikola Tesla. So that says something about his character, at least. And, but anyway, the one thing I just can't wrap my mind around, sometimes whenever it's cloudy and everything's just right, whenever the sun sets, it looks like it starts to shine on the bottom side of the clouds. And I don't know, I can't wrap my head around that. And I was wondering if he had an answer for that.
Did you get that?
Yep. Well, see, the sun is when the sun is setting. You've got to understand that the sun is what's happening now is that the sun is disappearing beyond the horizon point. You can see this on a flat road, on a railway line, in a long corridor, where the sun is actually disappearing out of your field of view and beyond. Right. And so you can see there that the sun is always perpendicular with horizontal and parallel with the Earth. Okay, so when the rays of the sun are coming towards us from sunsetting, you've got to understand that there is miles of ocean that the light is reflecting from, and light is curved linear. It's not straight. You see, yes, they say light is curved. It is curved linear, and so.
Right.
Yeah,
and I know magnetic fields can affect it and everything too.
It's all magnetic. Light is magnetism. White light is one and the same as magnetism. Magnetism creates magnitude and space and time. All of those words, all of them, they are all the same thing. Time is magnetism. Magnitude is magnetism. White light is magnetism. Black light is dielectricity. And so you've got a black yin and yang, and what that is the Godhead. The Godhead is these lights of black and white. And so what you have is black represents the black light of dielectricity, and white light is magnetism. And so when these two field modalities work against each other, electrification is produced. That's the third part of the Trinity, electricity. And electricity has color. It's not white and it's not black. It's red and blue, red shift, blue shift, red blood, blue blood. All of these materialisms, the rainbow is just red shift on one side, blue shift on the other. And that's what we call electromagnetism. But really, we should just call it electricity, because magnetism, as John Mewelsky says, the great genius, magnetism is a spiritual energy. It is not material. Electricity is material. because the electrical wave, the electrical wave is the transverse wave, you see, and that wave is curved linear as it projects and propagates itself and then eventually disintegrates. Whereas the longitudinal wave, it's unlimited. It never disintegrates. It's God's force. And so the light tricks, you see, the sunlight, as it comes through the atmosphere, it's going to shine under the clouds. That's an amazing phenomena, how that happens. So what you can see is that the sun is really a projection up there in the vault of the heavens, or in the firmament. And so its distance is in relation to your eye at all times. Okay? So when it's at the meridian above your head, it could be only a few hundred miles above your head. But when it's setting along the horizon, now you're stretching a few thousand miles into the sun. But,
Kenny, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, it sounded like somebody screamed or something. Did you hear that?
That was my daughter. She was asking for a piece of ice.
The little ones. I remember the last time me and Santos had a discussion. There was little ones in the background then, some years ago. But yeah, man, do you have another question, Kenny?
No, that was pretty much it. I kind of figured it was something like that, and I saw another theory on light that the noble gases, the gases that are the lightest and up at the top of the atmosphere already, are the same lights that they use for neon signs and stuff, like argon especially. But as the sun passes through, he was also saying the sun's electric. It's an electric force, and that's why you see it, the different colors. But argon just happens to glow sky blue whenever, it's electrified into a sign and everything. And the magnetic currents, you can bend the light into any shape you want to make it. And there's definitely electromagnetic currents going all over the place in the magnetic field of the Earth itself. And the highest altitude balloon videos and stuff that I've seen with the sun way out there where you can still see it, but it's like a pinprick of light. The whole horizon is still shining this bright blue color, even with the sun being that, far away and invisibly smaller than what light should be able to make that much light. I mean, it's crazy. It's like God really did create light, and then He put the sun in it.
Yeah, argon is the 18th element in the periodic chemical table, and 18 is 666, and R backward is Ra. And also argon is Argus, which is the boat, the Ark of Noah, because it is the carrier. It is the carrier of the nitrogen and oxygen that is in the air. There is 78% nitrogen and 20% oxygen, and then the remaining 2% are 1% argon. Argon is the boat. It is the connecting element of all the elements in the universe. Argon is the most underrated. Yeah. And so
that's probably why we use it with our welding machines at work, because it helps the bonding of the other elements together.
Yeah, and everything is syncretic. R is the way we say the letter R, which is the 18th letter of the alphabet, 666. Argon. You see, it has to do with that number as well. See, the letter R has to do with radiation, the transverse wave. That's why it is evil, because it radiates. Ra. Ra in Hebrew is evil. In Egyptian, it's the sun. So how can the sun be evil? when you put these two things together, because that's how syncretism works? Well, because it radiates an electromagnetic transverse wave, which is inferior to its source wave or pulse, which is the longitudinal standing scalar wave. And so the sun is a transformer from the scalar energy to Hertzian energy, which is inferior because that wave, as I said before, the light travels curved linear, and it creates all of these illusions. It's the master of deception, this transverse wave, because our eyes, and so therefore electricity becomes Baal, which is the false god. You see, because Baal deceives us with this transverse wave. Our eyes pick up the frequency of that light and deceives us, because we see everything in reverse with our eyes, even our image in the mirror. And so, in effect, we have our greatest friend, the sun, which illuminates our eyes so that we can actually see and work things out, is actually the deceiver at the same time, because the way it reveals nature is in reverse. And that's what Pierluigi Aguina says. He says, scientists today will never work out that the Earth is stationary, because they look at this instrumentation of mine and they can see that something is moving in the field. They can see that there's movement, but they attribute it to the Earth because they are scientists of effect. They are not science researchers of causes. They don't understand causes. They're materialists. There's a big difference between material wisdom and spiritual wisdom. The wisdom of the world is foolishness in the eyes of God.
Yeah. That's good. All right, Kenny, anything else, brother, while I got you on the line? You have
that's it.
Yep. All right, bro. Well, thanks for calling in, brother.
All right.
All right, I'll put you on mute. All right, man. So coming up on an hour, Santos, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the backlash and stuff. What has, how much backlash have you seen since, going in this direction of the flat earth? Are people lashing out? Are people saying that they're going the other way from you, or you've lost it on this? Or what kind of backlash are you seeing from some of the people in those fields who've been following you for years and stuff?
Well, first of all, if I were to consider anything from these people who are naysayers, I would never have done work in the first place.
Exactly.
Syncretism would never have been released because I had detractors from the start. My AstroTheology has been laughed at and ridiculed from the start.
Nothing new.
My position on the vegetarian spiritual diet has been laughed at by a truckload of dead corpse eaters. So my work on astrology has been laughed at by churchgoers because it's astrology is from the devil. My position on geocentrism has been laughed at, and all of these ones who are laughing, do you think they are significant or have any relevance in anything at all whatsoever? They're laughing people. Laugh, 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 laugh. They're debunkers. They are people who don't have possession of their own minds, so that when someone actually speaks like Jesus, when the crowds went and the Pharisees to listen to Jesus, they went back and reported to the chief priest, no one has ever spoken like this man before. The things he says are different. Yeah. You see, when syncretism speaks, it speaks truth, absolute truth, like none of these truthers out there can even contemplate. So so I look at the ones who fell off the syncretism boat when I went geocentric, and those are the ones that I would have pushed off
further down the road.
I I would have made them walk the plank into the shark-infested waters anyway, just for the irritation that they were to me. All the ones that irritated me, the ones that were just dumbasses who pretending to be, smart and syncretic, all of them, bar none, every single one of them, the ones that I detested in the first place, they're gone bye-byes to stupid land, upside down, spinning forever, trying to fall off the bottom of the Santa globe really hard. And only the intelligent ones like you and your friend online, all the beautiful ones that I loved and respected in the first place.
The ones that matter, yeah.
They're the ones that matter. Yeah. They will never leave. They will always be my brothers. They will always be my friends. We will always be together in spiritual consciousness, growing our Christ Krishna consciousness forever and ever together.
That's good. So what encouragement do you have for the people who are, and I think it kind of transcends flat earth and it gets into a whole bunch of just standing for the truth, that's being laughed at, that's being ridiculed, and people who are just getting into it, maybe people who are talking about flat earth and stuff and everybody's laughing at them. How do you stay positive about it and not just be negative, not being, reading the comment sections and believing the work and letting that affect you when they speak those crazy words over you? And just to remain positive. How do you do that? What is there any practices? Is it the diet that helps you? Is it the the prayer, the meditation, and just connecting with the Creator? What helps you to kind of get through day to day and encourages you to keep moving spiritually?
Oh, well, I have the best truth. I serve truth. For me, there is only one principle worthy of all adoration and focus and intent, and that is truth. And so when you have the truth at this level, there's no one that can, there's no one that can diminish it. I live with bliss. I live with it, and it will never be taken away from me. Never. Not even when I went to jail. I was always sustained by the bliss of knowing the truth. So these people, these ones that are laughing, the reason they're laughing is because they're hurting inside. Yeah. Because they know they're stupid and they can't defend. They have no defense against their globe psyop. So one tactic that I employ is to give them evidence. Like, for instance, I'll see a thread on Facebook where they're laughing at the flat earth. Well, I'll just throw in an evidence which just silences them, and you don't see any more comments after that. You just see that they just shut up because they are the ones who are watching the flat earth videos and seeing the evidence that we're living on a flat plane. They're seeing it, but at the same time, cognitive dissonance and the fact that they love the herd mind because that's where they get all the support. They don't want to look different and be laughed at and ridiculed. So they realize that they are going against their intelligence by sticking with the herd but seeing the evidence for the flat earth. For instance, here's one evidence, just one simple evidence. The world record for long-distance landscape photography is a guy who was sitting in the Pyrenees in Spain, and he could see the Alps in France, and he photographed 443 kilometers of flat Earth. He filmed Pic Gaspard in the French Alps, and you can see the Mediterranean Sea in between the Pyrenees and the Alps, and you see a flat, perfectly flat Mediterranean Ocean, and then you see the mountain. You don't see it sloping away after 400 kilometers. You actually see the mountain, the base of the mountain. Here's the camera in the Pyrenees in Spain, and there's the peak of the mountain right up at your eye level. The bottom of the mountain flat, everywhere flat, at your eye level. Where's 400 kilometers of slope? Those mountains should never, ever be seen from Spain. You should never be able to see anything at all on a globe at all whatsoever. Not even the tops of the mountains dipping below some curve. You should not be able to see them whatsoever from the continent or from the country of Spain. And yet you can see all of the mountains, all of the Alps, France, lifted up right to your eye level, and sure enough, the guy is elevated a few thousand feet. Regardless, even if he was at sea level, there should still be half of that mountain, if not all of it, hidden away from the curve.
Yeah.
So you can go to the internet and you can punch in world record landscape photography, and you can punch in the word PIC, P-I-C, Gaspard. Gaspard ends with a D, but it's not pronounced in French. Gaspard. Punch in those words and see it for yourself. And that is a proof which you cannot deny. Now, one point, just to finish off. That flat Mediterranean Sea that you will see in that photograph, that's the same flat Mediterranean Ocean which reaches out to the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal is 100% flat. How do we know? Because the engineers, they tell you that when they carved it out, they made a flat arbitrary datum line, and they carved it out to that flat line for 120 miles. When they opened it, no gates, no sluices, no locks, flat, 120 miles, should be about 7,000 feet of fall. And then when they opened the canal up to the water, well, lo and behold, it didn't overflood, it didn't drain, because imagine if 120 miles of Suez Canal at the top of the globe, well, it would be constantly drained if we were living on a globe. Think about it.
Mm.
And yet,
yeah.
It didn't flood, it stayed level. It stayed level, it went out hundreds of miles into the Red Sea that way, hundreds of miles all the way to Greece and Italy in the Mediterranean Sea the other direction. And there you see that beautiful photo of Pic Gaspard, 443 kilometers of flat stationary Earth. You can't argue these things. That's what shuts the upside down tards in an instant.
Yeah. I'm going to have to check that picture out. We do have some more calls here. I'm going to go to the phone lines. We got a call from northern New Jersey. Who we speaking with? Caller from northern New Jersey. All right. So we got user Donaldson. What's up, Donaldson? Hello, caller.
Hey, what's up? It's Donaldson right here.
Hey, what's going on, man? You got a question or comment for Santos?
Man, you know. Oh, absolutely, Santos. It's a pleasure. First of all, I thought that was your voice, and I said, "Wait a minute, I gotta chime in." Santos, do us a favor, would you please? By the way, my name is Donaldson Flowtime on Facebook, but also Donaldson on TalkShoe. And I don't have very many shows out there, but everybody knows that I give hell to people who are basically relying on contradictory theories and ideas. Okay, I give hell. Why? Because I'm an analyst. That's all I do is legal research. But I also see the spiritual side to the legal connection. Okay, and I've seen the manipulation firsthand. And so my question to you is regarding the moon and the eclipse. Okay, and I've heard some theories, unless you guys already discussed this, I've actually heard them mentioning, some people mentioning that it's possible that it wasn't really the moon that actually passed the front of the sun. Is that true?
Yeah, of course. Of course it's true. How do we know that? Well, because at every new moon, the moon should be occulting the sun. If it is a rock in space, which it is not, then at every new moon for 2.25 days, we should see the sun and the moon together. But again, astrology comes and saves the day. The mother of all sciences teaches that when a planet, any planet, Venus, Mercury included, comes within 15 degrees of the sun, you can't see it. It becomes blindsided. The sun, it's called under the beams of the sun, or I use the expression in my astrological parlance, under the rays of the sun, because that's what these guys taught us. They taught us that when the moon comes within 15 degrees of the sun, you can't see the moon. You will never see the moon. And if the moon was going in front of the sun, we would have an eclipse every 29.49 days. Every time. Because let me just get a whiteboard and illustrate what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Hey, man, you want to plug your show one more time while we got a second?
Donaldson Flow Time. It's Donaldson's analysis on TalkShoe. So it's 141792. I got just a few episodes on there, but I also have Donaldson Flow Time where I upload a lot of pertinent content regarding now time prophecy, but also legal analysis. But Santos, I think I yield the mic to you.
Okay, guys. There's the sun. Okay, 15 degrees. Anything that comes within 15 degrees, which is 30 degrees, one whole zodiacal sign, guys. One whole sign. This is why you'll never see the moon conjunct the sun. Now, this is the ecliptic of the sun. The sun does not go above the ecliptic, nor does it go below the ecliptic. This is called declination. Okay? Now,
okay, right.
As it goes along the longitudinal lines in the sky, this is called right ascension. Ra. Okay? Right ascension of meridian. Ram. So, when the moon is coming near the sun like this when it's waning, you guys see this, don't you?
Yep.
You see the banana of the moon.
Yeah.
And then when the moon actually goes into the 15th degree, all of a sudden there's no moon. You can't see the moon until the new moon. And then in Islam, they rejoice when they behold the new moon, this crescent of the moon. Then they begin they stop their fasting, right? So this is the point. Declination, the moon can
wow.
The moon can only be 5 degrees positive declination or 5 degrees negative declination to the sun. But at every new moon, the moon will pass the sun in right ascension. So it could be up here, 5 degrees higher, depending on where it is, or it could be here. But why can't you see that rock? Let's say on the next new moon, the moon is at its maximum 5 degrees positive declination. It would still be around the disk of the sun and partially covering the sun, because the sun's disk, remember, is I believe it takes up at least we'll have to work out how many degrees. Is it a couple of degrees that the sun actually covers its disk? Someone will have to check that. I haven't checked that, so I can't remember how big the disk is and how many degrees it occupies, okay? But the point is this. Even if the moon, at every new moon, is only partially obscuring the sun, which it should at 99% of new moons, it doesn't. It goes invisible. And in fact, the Hindus have always taught that the moon goes behind the sun at the new moon. Even though it's invisible, it's not in front of the sun, and the fact that you can't see it proves that it's not in front of the sun. So what is happening? So what is happening at the solar eclipse? Well, it's another body that is passing in front of the sun, and that is Rahu, or what we call in Western astrology the North Node. Astronomers are aware of these nodes because the moon's plane is obviously offset to the sun's by maximum 5 degrees. So therefore, if they have two different planes, and we say that this is the ecliptic of the sun in the sky, well then the moon's ecliptic must be like this. It must have 5 degrees offset. And so these are the nodes, these points where these two hula hoops, these two planes intersect, those are the nodes that are always there, always there at the solar or lunar eclipse, either the north node when the moon goes north of the sun, or the south node where the moon goes south of the sun for 2 weeks, are always at the eclipses. This is something that cannot be ignored. It cannot be ignored. At every eclipse, Rahu or Ketu, the south node or the north node, is right there within 4 degrees. And I'm talking every single recorded in the history of the universe. Every one of them. Bar none. Never, ever, ever has there been an eclipse of the sun or the moon when either of those bodies were not within degrees of these nodes. It's the nodes. It's definitely the nodes. And so it's a combination of the three. It's a combination of the moon going behind the sun. Remember, she's invisible when she's this close to the sun. Okay, so the moon will be going like this, invisible, invisible, invisible for 2.25 days, invisible. How does the sun have the ability to make completely invisible this rock in space that is way closer to us, millions of miles closer to us, and yet you can't see that ball for 2.25 days? And then when you do, you see this thin little slither of light, so faint and scintillating, like it's glorious. It's absolutely glorious to see the moon after the new moon, because the amazing fact that you can't see it for 2.25 days is just staggering. And heliocentrists and globies cannot provide any explanation for this phenomena. They cannot. And if they do, they will look ridiculous.
Is that symbolic for the death and resurrection as well? The moon going behind the sun like that, or you know, not being able to see it anyway, and then coming out on the other side, being new and reborn. You know, down. You know what I'm saying? Down for 3 days as well. Same thing, right?
Yes. It's Jesus saying that I will in 3 days' time this temple will be rebuilt.
Rebuilt. Exactly.
Because the temple is the moon's cycle, waxing and waning. That's her temple. Because the moon, the menstruator, the controller of the female menstrual cycle, this is the ovaries of the solar system. The moon is the ovaries of the solar system. It is known to the ancient
waters
and to astrology that the moon is the ovaries. Souls come into this plane through the moon. They depart through Saturn. But the moon is what is the only thing that can attract souls to this plane, because she's the ovaries. And the fact that a woman also harmonizes with her cycles. As the moon wanes, the woman is fertile. As the moon waxes, the woman becomes very, very fertile in that week before her own full moon cycle, you see. And the woman has the lunar cycle in her womb. Every month her womb dissolves and it bleeds. And then it starts again. and it copies the moon to the T. So this is why the Jews, the Islam, the Christians, they love the moon and the crescent moon, because she is glorious in her cycle.
So is there any study, while we're talking about the moon and understanding that the Israelites followed the moon and God told them to follow the moon for seasons, for signs, and also going into the Sabbath, like without going too far into it, is there a spiritual principle that you found out for resting during the Sabbath or during the new moons?
Well, this conjunction that happens monthly is very sacred. It's the most sacred observance in all religions, all of them. The new moon is a new beginning. So if you trace the ecliptic through the 28 lunar mansions, you'll find that at every moon, the first day or the first 13 degrees of the moon departing from the sun, that energy is the energy of Aries. Everything starts in Aries, all cycles. So for 2.5 days, 60 hours, the moon will be figuratively in her Aries part of her cycle. Then for the next 60 hours, another 2.5 days exactly, the moon will be in Taurus energy, symbolically. And so for every cycle, she goes around her own zodiac symbolically, because all waves do this. All waves start at Aries and finish in Pisces. They go like this. And that's it. All Taurus fields, all waves, all energy, thought forms, emotion forms, particles, if you want to call them, pulses, everything that happens starts at Aries and finishes at Pisces. Aries is here and Pisces are my 2 feet. Your body is astrological. Everything is.
Yeah, as above, so below.
Yeah.
That's the definition. A caller from New Jersey, are you on the line with us now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, man? You got a question or comment?
Yeah. No, I've got both, actually. I've been listening to Santos for a little while, so I wanted to say hi to him and, tell him that, appreciate the work he does and everything, the way he gets everything out, it's a good thing. So my question was regarding the moon, okay? Like when it first comes out, I've noticed that it's usually like a lot larger than when, as it comes up in the sky, it starts getting a lot smaller and so on, And I forget what the name for this phenomenon is, but how do you I guess correlate that with the fact that if the Earth in fact is a plane and it's actually disappearing over the horizon, I guess, why is it bigger? You know what I mean? Just that's the question, I guess, to start.
Yeah, well, this is only half of the situation that you're depicting, because the other half is that in fact both the sun and the moon, especially the sun, gets smaller when it is setting. Sometimes you see it bigger, other times you see it smaller. So there's no consistency in this. And it has to do with atmospheric lensing and atmospheric refraction. You have to understand that when the sun, there are days when there is much more density, molecular density in the air when the sun is low and when it's going into its vanishing point. Therefore, it has its last glow of being amplified in the effect of atmospheric lensing, and then it vanishes. But other days when the atmospheric conditions are different and it's very much drier, you'll see the sun is actually way, way smaller when it is setting. And you can see thousands of sunsets on YouTube, on the internet, where the sun, you can actually see the sun, you can measure it, gets smaller when it sets. So there's no consistency to this. Sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller. Depends on the atmosphere. Again, light is Lucifer, the deceiver. Lucifer means carrier of light, Lucy. So the sun is the carrier of light. He is Lucifer, but that's why he is Lucifer, because he has his very, very deceptive side. You cannot trust your material senses. You can only trust your spiritual senses,
So
which are the...
is the sun Lucifer or is Venus Lucifer?
They're all Lucifer, all the 7 Elohim, Saturn,
Okay.
Mercury, they are all Lucifer. It's just that Sun and Venus get prime position in this, in this title, you could call it, or this name, Lucifer. But Venus is also one of the 3 Lucifers in the sky, because there are only 3 bodies in the sky that can cast a shadow, and that is the sun, the moon, and Venus. No other body can cast a shadow on this plane other than those 3 Lucifers.
It's deep. I didn't even know there were 3. Something is new to me. So, caller in Jersey, what's your name again, brother?
John.
John. Awesome, man. You got another question?
Yeah. So, I mean, well, with since you mentioned, like atmospheric lensing, that's actually interesting, because I don't know if you've heard Eric Dollard. I was watching the thing, and not just him, but a few others say that the sun's not visible from outside of this lens. I guess you can say. So the actual image that we see is I guess you could say made by the atmosphere. So then, my other question would be, if light is able to bend, I've heard a lot of people kind of explain this, because I know that there's been several occasions where they've taken pictures of like you say, like what would be a flat plane, something where the curvature doesn't count for, but they say that it would if you factor in that light is able to bend, because of that atmospheric plane. So that's kind of 2 questions wrapped up into one, but I mean that's the I guess the concept.
You got a question out of that, Santos? You actually asked kind of a couple.
Yeah.
Like one would be the sun not being visible from outside of this lens. Like if we get outside where there is no molecules that are able to reflect light, would be one. And 2 would be because of since there is, and we can see, lenses, do bend light. So would that account for the curvature? That bend. Because I've heard that explanation as well. So that's kind of the 2 concepts that they relate.
Well, see, the thing is this: with all the photography, which does not lie, no matter how much and which way the light bends, it cannot make a globe straight and flat. It can't do that. It can play certain tricks with the eyes, which it does. You see, when we look out on the horizon, we do see curvature, but it's curvature of rotundity. If I'm standing on a big round table, I will see curvature, but the table's flat. It's still flat, but I will see curvature. You will see curvature everywhere because your eyes are round and you look around. You don't look a square. If you had square eyes, maybe that would be different. I don't know. But our senses are deceiving us. Lenses are deceiving us. Many things are deceiving us. The atmosphere, light bending. There's refraction. You can see refraction. You just put a stick in a glass of water. You can do these experiments at home. There are so many things. Another thing that is tricking us is the aspect of all of these discs in the heavens being fourth dimensional. They are projections, like the rainbow. The rainbow's not there, but you can see it. It's projected out there. But the guy standing next to you, only 10 meters away, he can't see it. Why? Wrong angle, proving that the rainbow is not there physically. It has no substance. It's an effect. It's projected on there like you project something onto a screen. You project a picture of a mountain on a projector screen. Well, the mountain's not there, but you see it. And so we're dealing with fourth dimensional activity in the sky. Don't expect to understand everything about the skies. But the other thing is that being invisible is another interesting fact, because a lot of these guys who go out, high into the Earth's atmosphere, because you can't go into outer space, you can't pass the dome, the firmament. It's solid for all intents and purposes, as far as we can tell. And so when they go up there, yes, they struggle to see stars. They struggle to see the sun sometimes. Just the fact that you can't see the moon for 2.25 days should be impressive enough to make one understand that there's stuff up there going on that we just cannot understand with these eyes. You can't trust your physical senses. You can't do that. The scriptures warn you.
Exactly. Time and time again. What is seen is temporal, but what is unseen is eternal. There's the scriptures repeated over and over and over again about the this world is temporal, but the world that is to come is eternal. It is forever. Seeing through the veil, or through Christ seeing beyond the veil, Christ tearing the veil to able to access those realms. I know we've been on here a while, and there's so much stuff for us to get into. And while I have you here, I love to pick your brain, man. Do you have any stories? Because this is what I love. Do you have any supernatural, otherworldly encounters in your endeavors? Have you seen UFOs or angels or demonic entities or things like that in your travels?
No, but I will recount something really amazing that will impress many people who are seeking the truth. Something that happened to me when I was flying from Perth to Melbourne in 2002. This was around February. I wish I had my camera. I really do. Those days, even if I did, the mobile phones in 2002 weren't as good as they are these days. But anyway, this is what I witnessed in 2002, flying eastward late afternoon from Perth to Melbourne, and everyone else in the aeroplane, a chartered jet, witnessed the same thing. Everyone was gasping for incredulity. There was wows going on all throughout the aeroplane as people were looking out the window. What did we see? Well, this is what we saw. In front of me for 180 degrees was pitch black darkness in the east, where the sun had already long disappeared. Behind us was the setting sun in Perth, and it was broad daylight. It was just the most amazing things that we saw, the delineator of the sun's light. We actually witnessed the limit of the sun's light. Now, the sun was still up. We can't be on a globe, guys. What we saw was, you look out your windows and everything from that mark, from my perfect perpendicular right to my perfect left, everything was black, pitch black, dark in front of us, in front of the plane as we're traveling eastward. And everything behind us, sun setting, was broad daylight. It was like a twilight, but it was still daylight. You could see the contours of the mountains, everything. Now, on top of that, there was a rainbow perfectly flat from 180 degrees all the way behind us. On the light side behind us, there was a rainbow on the horizon of the earth, and it spanned quite a few degrees. It wasn't just a very compressed rainbow. It was a very fattened out broad rainbow, and it was, so if you imagine this cup, and so we are here, and we're here flying eastward, and everything in front of that spoon, I put a spoon there, everything forward that way was black, and everything facing me behind was broad daylight. And the rainbow started here and went 180 degrees all the way on a flat earth, because you can't get a rainbow. You cannot get a rainbow. Let me try and paint what I saw. Let me try and depict what I saw. So we've got half an arch. We're flying this way. Everything here is black. The rainbow was on the horizon all the way around. A perfect rainbow. It was so brilliant. It was not hazy. It was brilliant. Brilliant. And it was along here, the rainbow, all the way 180 degrees. If we were living on a globe, impossible, impossible. That's flat. And that was thousands of miles that way and thousands, or well, let's reduce that to hundreds. Let's say 100 miles that way and 100 miles that way. There was a rainbow all the way sitting on the horizon going up into the sky. So in other words, it was a vertical rainbow. It has to be, of course, but I just have to stress this. Behind us. That's what I witnessed in 2002. And at the time, of course, I was a globie. I had no idea how to put two and two together. Now in hindsight, when I remember that experience, I realize that we can only be living on a flat plane. And the fact that I saw the delineator of the sun's light proves to me that the sun's light is limited. It's not traveling 93 million miles. That is a crock. The transverse wave cannot travel more than a few thousand miles because it disintegrates, just like the transverse wave of sound. If I whisper like this, it's quite possible that if you stand at a distance to your computer, you won't hear me. Why? Because the sound wave disintegrates. It's a transverse wave. It's inferior to the longitudinal wave.
I can't say that I grasp it all. People are asking me in the chat, they're like, how do you call yourself TruthSeekah and you've dodged flat earth and you haven't went into flat earth? Well, I think I had the perfect teacher. I was able to sit down and pick Santos Bonacci's brain about flat earth and be pretty much the first stuff that I've given my attention over to it. I appreciate you coming on the show as always, brother. Anytime that you would like to come on and just hang out and talk, whether it's flat earth or astrology, demons and angels, we like to talk about it all, man. Brother, thank you so much for everything that you've done, everything that you're doing. Your work means so much to so many people. Keep the faith, keep pushing on. You're just what you were talking about a while ago, like even at the very beginning of your work, there's the haters, there's everybody ridiculing. And if you was to listen to the scoffers and things like that, you wouldn't even be here. So I think that is just an awesome example for people who are speaking their truth, whether it is flat earth or spirituality or aliens, whatever your passion is, and people ridicule that and scoff it. Look at someone like Santos, who still keeps his peace. He still keeps on keeping on, and he's an encouragement to all of us out here in the field. So thanks so much for you being who you are, Santos.
Thank you, TruthSeekah. It's been a pleasure, and I'd like to thank the listeners and encourage them to serve truth. Truth will reward them with great riches one day.
Set you free, right? You shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. If you want to get free, know the truth. Find out what that is. Just quick before we go, are you still playing music?
Daily at home.
So that's how you keep your peace, right? The music, man.
Yeah.
No doubt,
yeah,
definitely.
Music is sonoluminescence, healing.
Yeah, it is. I think, and I know we talked about that a little bit the first time, talking about how, music heals people, and even like in the scriptures, how those demons that Saul had upon him, when David would play the stringed instrument over him, those evil spirits would subside, man. And music has played a huge part in my life, and that's awesome. You're still doing it daily, man.
True.
So with that, I'm gonna say thanks for coming on the show, Santos, and peace and shalom. We'll have you back on soon, brother.
Thank you.
All right, shalom,
peace.
Shalom, peace. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Santos Bonacci, the man himself. So why haven't I studied flat earth? Why haven't I given myself over to it? I let the man himself come on the podcast and school me on it. a lot of stuff, man. A lot of that stuff makes sense, dude. And I tell you what, way over my head. I didn't even talk much. I'm just listening, soaking it all in, right? That's what you're supposed to do. Listen, soak it all in, and then make your assumptions. I think after a presentation like that, and for those of you who are listening on iTunes or one of the podcasting apps, if you go find the video, this is one where I will encourage you to go back to the video where Santos actually pulled out the whiteboard and he showed you the breakdowns and stuff, which he's awesome at doing. And so very well spoken, very well studied after his craft and what he loves and holds near and dear to his heart. And I will say that it's so cool that to see how everything fits together. Like he's still referencing back to astrology. Like it's still a part of his work. So people in the chat and people I've talked to over the years, they're just saying like, how did he get into flat earth? How did he, quit seeking truth and get into flat earth type? People make these comments, right? But it's always been a part of his work. If we look at astrology, astrotheology, that's always been a part of his work. So hats off for him doing what he's doing. And so there's still like the ridicule and stuff in the chat, and people asking, why have you strayed from flat earth? Why haven't you, being a truth seeker, went to the truth? And truth is leading everybody to flat earth. You got to cross that line. Like eventually, I finally did a show on it, right? And had the best on here when it comes to that. So my thing is this. I did not touch it from the beginning because I seen what it was doing to people. I seen what happened to Santos when he started talking about flat earth, and I've seen your comments. I've seen the ridicule, and it's not that I'm scared of the ridicule or I'm scared to split the fan base or whatever the case is. Just like I said about the homosexual stuff, people want to know my take on homosexuality so they can determine whether they're going to be a fan or not. And something I'm not even worried about discussing for the most part. You want to know my view on homosexuality. You want to know my view on the flat earth. So you can, and so for anybody to make any type of assumption, whether you are a scoffer or whether you are a truther, I think you need to listen to the research first before you claim anything. So that's rule number one, to come into it with an opinion already versus something that you've already been taught. So with all that being said, the reason I probably moving forward, I have my opinions, but moving forward, I don't discuss it, and I probably won't discuss it. I'll leave it up to the experts. I don't discuss it because I personally like to discuss things, and I find more peace and more fruit in discussing things that help us spiritually. That's my calling. My calling is not to get to the bottom of flat earth, things like this. It's spirituality and what can help us get through the day. What can we apply to our life? Not a conspiracy, not a theory, or just digging, but what can we find there, apply it to our life, and it'll help us get through the day, make us better people, make me a better father, make me a better husband, make me a better friend, those type of things. That's what I love to give my attention to. And I say that as a blanket statement, but much of Santos's work goes into that when we study about the diet. He touched on that, the diet, spirituality concerning that, astrotheology and how astrology relates to your body, the different salts and the different signs that you're born under. And there's different salt that you need to take into your body to function at 100% optimization. That's spirituality. That's some stuff that we need to help us, right? We can apply it to our life. So that's why I would have somebody like Santos on when I focus more on the spirituality, because there is the spiritual side to everything that he's talking about. There's nothing that exists in the physical realm on the earth that doesn't have a spiritual counterpart. There's nothing that you do in the physical manifestation that doesn't have spiritual consequences. That's in every facet. The things that we let pass before our eyes, the things that we listen to, the foods that we eat, the words that we speak over ourselves, the words that we let other people speak over us. All of this stuff comes into play. So with that being said, I touched it. I went there. Many people have been wanting me to do a show. I think I do side with Santos, man, on a lot of that stuff. A lot of it. I do side with a lot of it. I wouldn't call myself a flat earther at this point. Maybe I need to do more research, but I don't think I will. And that, I'm going to leave it up to the experts, and that's not a cop-out, leaving it up to him. So with that, I'm going to say peace and shalom. I thank everybody for coming on and hanging out. If you're watching this on YouTube, please click the link in the description, subscribe on iTunes or your favorite Android podcasting app. If you don't have any, click the Android link, and there would be some recommended for you. There's a bunch of good ones out there. So subscribe to the podcast, and I want to thank everybody again who is supporting on Patreon. If you guys want to help me keep doing this and get better equipment and help me pay bills to keep the internet on and buy lights and mics and all that kind of stuff, you guys can do that. And when you do it, you will be rewarded. I have unreleased music. So there's a lot of people listening who have no idea that I do music. So what I do is I sample the works of many different researchers, theologians, movies, things like that. I put all that stuff into my music and try to put it into a rap song. So we'll talk about spirituality. We'll talk about astrology. We'll talk about the planets. We'll talk about the alignment of the stars. I'll put it all in a hip hop song, and you can listen to that music on my website, TruthSeekah.com. So what you'll get if you support on Patreon, you get access to my entire discography, and you also get access to unreleased music, and there's a bunch on there, right? And so if you head on over to Patreon, let me see if I can head on over to patreon.com/TruthSeekah, and you will get access to all of the new music and everything that we have over there. And we cover everything from spirituality. We got songs on there about psilocybin mushrooms. We have songs about the spirit realm and elemental spirits and how they operate and their names and how they function and things like that. So we got a little bit of everything over there. So with all that being said, I want to say thank you again to everybody who helps me do this. I'm doing this full time now, so every little bit helps. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. I love you guys so much, and we'll be back this week. I think tomorrow night, this is funny, right? Tomorrow night, we have somebody who is a critic of Santos's work. And hopefully that's all that's being said. Hopefully we don't go into a lot of detail about that, but Danny Wilton will be on the show with us tomorrow night. And I think a lot of their stuff correlates. A lot of it is speaking the same thing, and maybe that's why he's a critic. I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow night. Danny Wilton will be on the show. We got a bunch of awesome podcasts lined up. I'm doing this thing full time. I have a lot more time and energy and effort to put in this. And so with that being said, I'm going to say peace and shalom. We'll holler at y'all later. Shalom, shalom, people.
Your way so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.